Greetings, my fellow freedom loving sovereign thinkers. Thank you for tuning in to LO3 Podcast. My name is Craig, transmitting from the wild and wonderful Mountain State, and today's date is Monday, August 2nd, 2021. And it's interesting because around this time of August 1st and 2nd, 1946, it's actually the 75th anniversary of the Battle of Athens, Tennessee. Wow, time does fly, right? It's mainly about election fraud, and I did an episode on that a few times, and I think people should really know what's going on. And it went to a big battle at the county jail, and very interesting. Like I said, I'm learning more about it, and that's always that's why I always believe in right to keep and bear arms, because firearms, gun rights prevailed on that event when it comes to tyranny as a last, you have to use as a last resort. Yes, and of course we all see what's happening. I've been, studying some stuff, listening to interviews. It's been proven time and time again that there's no reference material for COVID-19. So if you're the ISO scientist or anything like that, you give them a call. They don't even have it on file. Wow. And even Mike Adams admit he was mistaken by questioning the research from both Rappaport, a few others, including David Icke, and he owes him an apology, which is good. Like, I remember that controversy a while back. I never took any sides. Always always examine the bigger picture, because the question is always this, my friends: how accurate is the data that you're trying to present to us? That is one of the questions you always have to have on your mind. And plus, who benefits? Who benefits from this? We see big box stores, big corporations, left open, and mom and pop being shut down. And always gotta look at those areas. And good thing about it, people are fighting back. Doesn't matter where they're at, around the world. Even Missouri, they had their big protests. Even other areas, they have their own ways of telling like it is. Because you have those rights, even in the state constitution as well, and even right to run a business. And of course, they're being deprived by that because you got all these governmental geniuses assume they're smarter than everybody else. Yes, and we gotta expect more debt going up worldwide, including here, which is pretty pathetic as usual. They'd never learn, right? Let's raise the debt ceiling again and again and again. Print money out of thin air. Well, I'll say one thing about the collapse. Hopefully everyone's out there are preparing for it one way or the other. Because I know my colleague and myself, we're doing it right now as we speak. And it's not taking it for granted. You always got to be vigilant in these times. Consistently. It's always been our obligation as human beings to pay attention and say no to the propaganda matrix and so forth. Yeah, it's pretty mellowed out here. And it's nice. So I got the dogs running around and all that, which is very cool. And it's funny because I know they're still doing these mask mandates again in certain areas. I saw a video from freeflorida.me at Trader Joe's. They had people wear the mask because the whole Delta variant. And there's even, if you folks go out there and talk to the place that are taking the shots, if they do testing for Delta variant, they don't. So is this another phantom virus? Yeah. Synthetic, of course. We could say that too. But there's nothing. Good grief. So, all right, well, enough of me ranting here. We're going to do a couple pertaining to what we're talking about. This one here came from the Epoch Times today. Okay, one moment. Came from the Epoch Times. It's government raising debt by enormous amount will cause more inflation. This is from Tom Ozimek. As it reads here, Barbara Kohn, founder and director of the Austrian Economic Center, a think tank, told Epoch Times Crossroads that the Biden administration's massive spending plan are bound to drive inflation higher. As per this, she believes some economists are right to be concerned that the government spending plans, which amounts to some $4.5 trillion, will push higher prices. She replied that this will, of course, cause inflation. Column expressed concern that whatever portion of the spending involves taking on more public debt would, in particular, be a burden on the future generations. It is not your generation, but it might be the generation of your kids and your grandchildren who will still have to pay that back, she added. This is danger. There's a teaser on here, too, from the Epoch TV, Inflation Fallout. I encourage people to check it out here. Further commenting on the Biden administration's spending plan, Combs said their impact is definitely raising the debt levels to an enormous amount. Combs' remarks come as senators on Sunday unveiled a nearly $1 trillion bipartisan infrastructure package expected to be filed by a partisan $3.5 trillion social, health, and environmental plan. The bipartisan bill faces a rough road in the Democrat-controlled House, however, where progressive lawmakers have called for a bigger package. While Biden's $1.9 trillion COVID-19 relief package was founded with borrowed money, the president has said he wants his other spending priorities to come without increasing deficits, chiefly by tax hikes on wealthier Americans and corporations. The same old song and dance. But according to an estimate by an analyst at the Nonpartisan Committee for Responsible Federal Budget, under President Joe Biden's full budget proposal for fiscal year 2022 and the subsequent decade, public debt would raise from $22 trillion to over $39 trillion by the end of 2031. In a percentage terms relative to gross domestic product, the think tank estimates federal debt will reach a record 110% of the GDP at the end of 2021, rising to 114% by 2024 and 117% by the end of 2031. On inflation, Biden has taken the view that most of what's behind the recent surge in prices can be attributed to transitory effects like surging demand grading against supply chain bottlenecks as the economy continues to emerge from the pandemic deep freeze. At the same time, he has said that this administration would remain watchful for unchecked inflation and would adjust policy accordingly. I want to be clear, my administration understands that we ever to experience unchecked inflation in the long term, that would pose a real challenge for our economy, Biden told reporters at the White House press briefing on July 19th. While we're confident that isn't what we're seeing today, we're going to remain vigilant about any response that is needed. What a pipe dream indeed. But while officials at the Federal Reserve have, like Biden, taken the view that inflation will pass once the pandemic-related disruptions wane, some economists have raised the alarm on the pace of rising prices. That these have been echoed by Republicans who blame the Biden administration's spending policies and plans for pushing policies higher. It comes as a key inflation gauge, the so-called core personal consumption expenditures price index, which excludes food and energy, and the Fed's preferred method for measuring inflation, rose 3.5% in the 12 months to June. The Commerce Department said on Friday the last time the core PCE inflation gauge saw a similar year-over-year vault was in July 1991. The Fed's looks to core PCE as the key inflation gauge that informs its monetary policy, which has an inflation target of a longer average of 2%. Some economists have expressed concerns that if prices accelerate too fast and stay high for too long, expectations of further price increases will take hold, driving up demand for wages and potentially triggering the kind of wage price spiral that plagued the economy in the 1970s. Meanwhile, more than 80% of Americans are concerned about inflation, according to a survey by Skynova, which also indicates that 61% feel inflation will negatively impact their lifestyles. Of course. That's what happens. We got fiat money, folks, and piss our money away. All hail to central banking, right? The legal institution that it is. And you know what? I'll be very honest. People stop being nice to these sons of bitches, with all due respect. Throw their ass and charge their asses for treason. You got all the evidence there, and the fact is, it's unconstitutional. The Federal Reserve is an illegal institution, period, regardless what you think. And I see apple polishers from both sides of the realm, rather Democrat, Republican. Oh, we just need to put a tight leash on. That's what Barbara Bachman has to say. Or Michelle Bachman. Is it Michelle Bachman? Yeah, Michelle Bachman. Yeah, how impressive. Oppressive leadership, right? Her conformist for sure. And of course, you got Biden, you got all these little goofballs on the Democrat side doing the same thing. A bunch of her conformists, as far as I'm concerned. You print money out of thin air, it goes to hell in the handbasket. That's what's called fiat. It happened in the Weimar Republic of Germany in the 1920s. Folks, you better start studying your history before jumping on this pretentious bandwagon, because it will burn you when least expect it, and all the finger pointing will go to one person, but you need to look in the mirror before you do that. Hard assets are great things. Even a person like myself is getting silver. Do that. Land. Do that. And make sure you don't owe a dime to anybody in those areas, banks and so forth. You want to keep those debts very minimum or none at all. I see too many people out there got all these debts. They got so many, they use it, you max out their credit cards. It's like, what on earth are you doing? So, this is very disturbing indeed. And, of course, food includes food prices, too. And speaking of food, are we headed for a full-on famine? Fires, droughts, and foreign entities buying farms and food processing plants. This is from the Organic Prepper, okay, and .com. Good website. I encourage people to check it out. Send some support for them as well. Jane Rising, okay. And this is what she has to say. In addition to the civil unrest and rising crime, we are now facing a threat to our food supply in the form of drought, fire, and foreign ownership of our farmlands and food processing facilities. Whether it's meat or vegetables, potatoes or pasta, food is a huge issue. Food tensions have been cause of many wars throughout history. In this article, I'll overview the economic impacts of drought and fire on our food supply. I'll also discuss who is really in control of our food supply. Hint, it's not us. The U.S. is losing farms by thousands yearly. Drought affects our ability to water our crops, whether in the garden or the farm field. If there's no water, there's no work. And for us farm workers, how are we going to support the family? It's a 57-year-old Pablo Barrera, who was planting watermelons for Del Basque. According to Farm Progress, the U.S. lost 4,400 farms in 2020 alone. The average family farm size has remained more and less stable, while big agricultural farms such as CAFOs have grown noticeably. Big ag tends to be hard on both animals and the environment. However, the U.S. has lost dairy farms at a shocking rate. The U.S. Drought Meter, or USDM, a weekly map shows both geographic areas affected and drought intensity. As of July 27th, the data shows nearly one-third of the United States is in the extreme and exceptional drought categories, including all West Coast farm countries. Drought is causing some farmers to walk away. There is no universally accepted quantitative definition of drought. Droughts are instead usually described quantitatively as a deficit of water relative to normal conditions as referenced by the Water Supply, Demand, and Management. California A state deep in extreme drought conditions is the largest dairy-producing state in the Union. California is also the nation's top producer of vegetables, berries, and nuts, according to a piece by Reuters. In anticipation of even further lack of water, farmers all across the state have left their fields unplanted. Others chose to plant drought-tolerant crops or turn to other forms of income. Livestock is greatly affected by drought as well. Animals like people need water every single day. Farmers in Utah are currently dealing with 75% less water than they had last year. Many Utah farmers were forced to plant fewer crops, including hay, a staple in livestock feeding. Many farmers will have to sell or slaughter their livestock because they can't feed or water them, which dramatically affects future meat prices. In North Dakota, many pastures are empty as drought left ranchers with no other choice than to sell their herds off to be slaughtered. Cliff Matson sold more cows in 2 weeks than he had in 6 years. When he asked about the other ranchers in the area, Matson had this to say: "There have been 300 to 400 head outfits that have completely sold out. That's all they did all their lives. It was also so disheartening they didn't even come to the sale. It wasn't just one time. They started with their older cows, then went to their replacement heifers, then went to middle-aged cows, and then last week we saw young cows come to town. It was so hard to talk to them. There's nothing that will make it any better. I don't know what they're going to do. Foreign ownership of farmland is a substantial cause of economic concerns. Another issue relates to foreign ownership. Several of our largest food processing plants, such as Smithfield and JBS, are Chinese-owned. This 2019 article, courtesy of NPR, gives some good statistics on just how much our farmland are as in foreign hands. In 2013, a Chinese firm purchased Smithfield Foods. As part of a 2013 sale, a Chinese company now owns 146,000 acres of U.S. farmland. Nationwide, the numbers hint at growing global interest in U.S. farmland as an investment opportunity. By the end of 2019, foreign entities held an interest in nearly 35.2 million acres of U.S. agricultural land, representing 2.7% of all privately held farming land, according to the USDA. That's about 60% increase from 2009, which foreign entities held in an interest in only 22.2 million acres, or 1.7% of privately held farmland. Foreign entities are not the only ones buying U.S. farmland. Non-farmer domestic entrepreneurs and investors also want a piece of the agricultural pie, which will also drive up costs of agricultural production. Investors, institutional investors, pension funds, and university endowments, private foundations, and other organizations that manage huge pools of capital are increasingly incorporating farmland into their investment profiles, wrote University of California, Santa Cruz sociologist Madeline Fairbairn in her book Field of Gold, Financing the Global Land Ranch. And it's interesting, too, because even like those places like the People's Republic of China, for example, they are under food scarce as well. So they're going to try to find a way of infiltrating, and use and send their food to that country. Because it's just an example, folks. This is worldwide. So what we're seeing here, the damaging effects of wildfires are far-reaching. In addition to the evident problem of the burning down of both fields and structures, fires also affect bee populations. Wisconsin has an air quality advisory in place as of this writing due to the Canadian wildfires. The air in my garden was thick as I worked, and I saw few pollinators, but not nearly as many as usual. Fire can only burn the hive. It interferes with the polarized light most pollinators use to navigate. In short term, fire is a problem for pollinators along with everyone else. According to Oregon State Extension, fire is the biggest issue for commercial apiaries. These apiaries typically house honeybees and ground nesting species such as mason bees, carpenter bees, and leaf cutters. An estimate 30% of species here in Wisconsin, bumblebees also nest in the ground. Bee populations typically recovered in the years following a significant fire since the first plants in the national succession are shrubs, forbs, and other flowering species. Also, bees aren't the only pollinators. Butterflies, moths, birds, and even wasps pollinate plants. Commercial agriculture often uses honeybees, but they're far from the lone worker in the garden and field. Also concludes that overall the effect of fire on pollinator population is positive. This article from the Wiley Archive. They crossed that out, by the way, so I'll just say it anyway. Yeah. Here's a 2016 article from the British Ecological Society's journal, Applied for Ecology. For true science geeks among us, it discusses fire ecology as it relates to pollinator populations via conceptual model. So, folks, look it up. And it says here, secure your food supply now. It might be wise idea for each of us to do we can to secure our food supply by becoming a nation of self-reliant producers as we once were. We might create a brighter future for ourselves and our children. Becoming a producer is easier than you might think. You don't have to suddenly grow all your vegetables and raise meat chickens on the patio of your townhouse to do it. However, growing some of your own food is and learning to build a better pantry are a good start. Here are a few garden resources to help you no matter where you live. Growing vegetables in the back in style. Here's how to start planting your garden. How to water your garden even if there's a drought. Creating a more sufficient garden for the long term. How to have a garden when you can't have a garden. How to grow a survival garden. And what to do if it dies. Are you concerned that we could be heading into a famine? How you're preparing? Share your thoughts. That'd be very cool. Yes, and she's absolutely correct. And you gotta think and act locally too. There's too much big corporations, big food chain corporations are trying to run our lives. And even urban farming is good too. I remember this. I know it was disappointing. Some places they had it in South Florida and they got rid of it. I'm like, why? It's good to do these things, folks, because and you have and learn to work together in your own communities too. That's essential. I always support this for a very long time, and I encourage everyone out there to do the same because we're doing our end, and we've been blessed with neighbors that have gardens and self-contained. We're all like network with one another, so bartering in our own ways, so we can all benefit. It's not just one or two person army here. It's got to be a nice little small community, tight knit group like your neighbors. You should always let your neighbors know, hey, what's your intake on growing your own garden? People need to start talking to them, and instead of being in their own caves all the time, it gets a little bit ridiculous. But one thing I know for sure, folks, there's some great technology out there. Even like certain areas that you get moisture, you can get water out of thin air. Like even up here, the air is good and there's a lot of moisture, so it can be take advantage of this. Take advantage, because if we don't, we could all suffer the wrath. And of course, if you study history, look what happened in Ukraine when the Soviet Union occupied it and they controlled the food chain. Prepare yourselves at the best of your ability, folks. Doesn't matter where you're at. So that will be it. Thank everyone for listening. Plus, feel free to download and share this throughout your social media networks. Someone's getting hiccups here. Sorry about that. And if you want to if you have any ideas, suggestions, comments, send your correspondence with decorum. Furthermore, I'll leave the footnotes of these articles on my speaker page. If you want to contact me, you can go to Loki Luck number 03 at protonmail.com. And if you want to donate, you can go to paypal.me or cash.app /Loki Luck number 3. If you want to support the Organic Prepper and the Epoch Times. That will be awesome. Subscribe, donate. That would be cool. Hey, right now, I'm trying to avoid the lamestream media the best I can. And it's a comedy show, folks. I hear all this drama, and I'm not buying it one bit. I know many people aren't either. So fight the good fight, all right? Once again, thank you for your time. Plus, always remember that the demoniac resistance is healthy for the soul and can liberate humanity. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Keep on spreading the love, and may your guardian spirits be with you.